Today's discussion will be presented in 3 sections since we're recording it for a radio broadcast on Federal News Radio 1500 AM. You're welcome to post questions and comments during the session, and we'll try to answer them online. I'd like to introduce our moderator, Jason Miller, Executive Editor of Federal News Radio 1500 AM and federalnewsradio.com.
Welcome to the program. Our guests today are Pam Dyson, the Chief Information Officer of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Joe Klimovich, the Deputy Assistant Attorney General and Chief Information Officer of the Department of Justice, Michelle Sparrow-Walker, the Acting Director of the Systems and Integration Office at the Department of State, Steve Graywall, the Deputy CIO for the General Services Administration, and Adam Clater, the Chief Cloud Architect for Red Hat's North American Public Sector. Welcome to the discussion today. Before we get started, let me set some context for our discussion. Over the last 6 years, the emergence of cloud computing has really changed the way agencies view their networks and data centers. One recent estimate from the IDC Government Insight says 8.5% of all federal IT spending goes to a public, private, or hybrid cloud. IDC says agencies are expected to spend in 2016 $702 million for software as a service, $1.2 billion for infrastructure as a service, and $231 million for platform as a service. And that doesn't count the other $4.6 billion on other cloud spending, whatever that other is. Now, CIOs also see a lot of opportunity in the cloud. The Professional Services Council in 2015 surveyed federal CIOs, and they found 8% said they had progressed as far as they wanted to in implementing cloud-based solutions. Now, on top of that, you have recent draft memos from the Office of Management and Budget, one on data center consolidation, another on open source. Both create mandates to help further push this move to this new technology infrastructure. The data center policy would mandate a reduction of data centers by another 2,000 by 2019, but more importantly, the draft memo ties the reductions to efficiency, to cybersecurity, and of course to transformation efforts. The open source memo would require new software developed specifically for or by the federal government to be made available for sharing and reuse across all agencies. It also would include a pilot program to release a portion of that new federally funded custom code to the public. So we have this integration of cloud, data center transformations, and open source. They're all spurring this new opportunity to drive down costs, increase efficiency, and enable transformation and innovation. But, of course, there are several questions that need to be answered. How will this new architecture interact with legacy systems in a secure manner? How can agencies prioritize applications to move to the cloud, optimize their data centers while keeping their current technology running smoothly? Those are some of the questions we're going to tackle today and many more in our panel. So with that context in place, let's turn to the panel. Once again, our guests are Pam Dyson, the CIO of the Security and Exchange Commission, Joe Klimovich, the CIO of the Department of Justice, Michelle Sparrow-Walker, the Acting Director of the Systems and Integration Office at the State Department, Steve Graywall, the Deputy CIO for the General Services Administration, and Adam Clater, the Chief Cloud Architect for Red Hat's North American Public Sector. Let's start at the beginning. I'm going to turn to Joe for this one, on this one, because I know you guys have made a ton of progress on data centers. Give me a sense of where you're at with the data center optimization effort.
Sure. We've made a lot of progress in the last couple of years. Just to give you a sense of perspective, in 2010, we had 110 data centers, and today we've closed 67 of those data centers. And the plan is to consolidate down to 3 data centers by the end of FY19. We got plans in place for that. Last year, we closed our largest data center at the headquarters level down in Dallas, saving about almost $2 million a year. 25 systems were moved to our core data centers. And so that's great efficiencies and improved performance. Recently, we moved our financial management system into our core data center. So a lot of progress, a lot more work to be done, but we're on track and we're proud of our effort.
When you do these closures, are you moving to cloud? I mean, that's the other piece of this puzzle, or is it how do you define what you're moving to?
Well, it's a hybrid approach. So we have 3 core data centers that within those core data centers have what we call Justice Cloud. So that is a shared environment, shared infrastructure for the department. We're also moving to the cloud. The idea is that things that can and should be moved to the cloud, where it makes sense, go to the cloud, the commercial cloud. But we also have dedicated, very secure cloud solutions in commercial facilities. So it's a real hybrid approach.
All right. Now let me turn to Pam. I know you guys at the SEC have been really ahead of the rest of the agencies in many ways with data center consolidation. Give me a sense, you're not only further along, but you're also starting to see the benefits.
Yeah. So far fewer data centers. So we have 2 core data centers, geographically dispersed. So we went from about a 35,000 square foot footprint in data centers and consolidated it down to roughly 4,000 square feet. In the process, we also virtualized our data centers. So, we're about 97% virtualized. So we've pretty much gotten out of the physical server business. So in addition to consolidating our data centers, we've also virtualized our data centers. So in effect, our data centers serve as private clouds for the SEC. One of the things that we have not achieved is the scalability and elasticity that the cloud can give you with our private data centers, which is why we are also looking at a hybrid approach to augment that space for us.
And why haven't you achieved the flexibility and scalability? Is it just the makeup of the data centers, meaning the way you guys took that initial step?
Yeah, I think it's the makeup. I think it's the skill set. I think it's the resources, the time to acquire, to spin up environments on a quicker scale. I think there are commercial vendors who could do that quicker than we could for a lot of reasons. And so the effort has been, and the focus has been over the last couple of years, is the consolidation and virtualization in that space. Now we're going to pause and look at where we should go in terms of what we can put in the cloud. Clearly, there are things that are fairly basic. There's public data that can be moved to the cloud, in the short-term time frame. But then we have a lot of SEC proprietary information, very sensitive financial information that we would have to look at whether or not we want to make the move to the cloud.
And I know, talking to you for my Ask the CIO show, among other times, you have certain peaks when people file their initial public offerings, and things go crazy.
Yeah, things go crazy.
You have that.
Those are, those are some of the areas that we're looking to target. I mean, the biggest target for the SEC right now is around data and big data and data analytics, right? And so, we have these huge exams. We have huge data sets. Some data sets we haven't seen the volume. I mean, it's unparalleled in terms of the amount of data that we'll be ingesting over the next couple of years. And so the cloud seems to be a perfect fit for that. Security, I know we're going to get into talk about that. 2 years ago we were talking about security around doing these things. For us now, it's more around processes and, the change in culture, the paradigm shift that has to happen in the workforce in order for these processes to be effective. FedRAMP has moved us a long way in the security realm, and I'm sure you're going to talk about that a little further.
You're teeing us up already, but I'm going to turn to Michelle Sparrow-Walker from the State Department first. Now, you guys over at the state, like SEC, have been, I think, ahead of a lot of agencies with data center consolidation. Tell us where you guys are at.
I'm surprised to hear you say that in terms of being ahead. But I do think we've done a lot of good work. We've done a lot of work with respect to data center consolidation and optimization. At the State Department, we have actually 4 core enterprise data centers. We have one large facility on the West Coast. It's a 45,000 square feet facility, of which we're only using 15,000 square feet now, but it's a Tier 3 facility, state-of-the-art facility. But then on the East Coast, we also have a facility in Culpeper, Virginia, and it's actually being leased right now for the State Department. And we have 2 smaller footprints also on the East Coast, one in Maine State proper and then a facility out in Beltsville, Maryland. But in addition to those core enterprise data centers, we're a global agency, and so we have 200 posts all over the world in multiple countries that have their own IT computer rooms, if you will, that meet the definition of a non-core data center from OMB's perspective. And we also have domestically other non-core data centers. So we have a large array of core and non-core data centers out there. But what we are doing from a consolidation perspective is that we are closing the lease facility that I spoke of in Culpeper. So that'll be 13,000 square feet of data center space that we're going to be closing by 2018. But from an optimization perspective, we are also, we've just finished implementing the first of multiple modular data centers out in our Beltsville facility, and those modular data centers are basically commodity trailers, energy-efficient commodity trailers that use ambient or outside air to provide cooling for up to 44 racks of IT equipment, and it'll help us maintain our power usage effectiveness in that environment down less than 1.2, which is what the federal sustainability guidelines are calling for right now. And in addition to that, we're also in our Maine State facility where we pretty much have a retrofitted office space that we've used for probably it's our oldest data center that we have. We're currently modernizing that space to add hot and cold air containment so that we can also help improve the efficiencies of the data centers across the State Department. But so, and then lastly, in our data centers, we are also looking now at modernizing the services that we provide so that we can create, a private cloud environment for our State Department customers, and that's so we're automating provisioning and deprovisioning, and we are, going to be putting in place the ability to track and report on system utilization and consumption, which is going to drive cost sharing and cost transparency, and allow us to implement some management tools that we can use to standardize metric reporting, not just in our core data centers, but across our non-core data centers as well. So we're really just getting ready to start, developing our new, updating our strategy to really identify a lot of those inefficient non-core data centers across the department. The ones out at Post have to remain for obvious reasons unless we get into some regionalization. But on the domestic side, we do have some more work to do in terms of identifying those inefficient data centers so we can consolidate them.
So just one quick follow-up. I think you're going to make a lot of customers, if you will, a little unhappy once you start measuring their provisioning and deprovisioning. They're going to see how much they're actually using, and you're going to get a lot of this. That's not us, that we didn't use that much. Are you guys already planning for that, trying to educate the customers about the changes that are coming?
Yes, we are. I mean, we've developed chargeback and showback capabilities so we can start showing our customers now what the cost of the resources that they're currently using, just to prepare them for, the State Department we haven't determined or decided yet if we're going to actually move to total cost sharing. But even if we don't, just from the efficient use of resources, it helps for them to understand that when they come and ask for resources, there's a cost associated with that, particularly as they start to move to the cloud, because there actually is a cost associated with that. And so, but we're going to create an environment that we feel is going to be very competitive with the commercial cloud. So, but yeah, we're preparing.
All right, very exciting to see how that moves down the way. Let's move to Steve Graywall from GSA. Give me a sense, GSA also has a pretty good story to tell. Maybe everyone just has a good story to tell, and I want them to. But I was told by a mutual friend of ours that you guys actually do have one.
Absolutely. So yeah, we've also made a ton of progress on the data center consolidation front. To give you a little bit more context around what progress means, we've shut down over 80% of our data centers. We've reduced square footage by over 50%. We've decommissioned over 600 physical servers. We've migrated over 300 physical servers to a core data center facility. The goal is for us to also move to 3 core primary data center facilities, leveraging shared services. So as you're aware, with the shared services approach, the goal is to get really kind of these core federal hubs that will become hosting centers for traditional data center hosting. So that's very much part of our long-term strategy. In addition, on the cost front, we've realized approximately $18 million in savings as a result of those activities.
So the shared services piece, talk a little bit more about that. Are you looking to co-locate with other agencies, or is it GSA is going to be the host in many ways?
Co-location. So, there's shared service providers for large data center facilities, for example, NASA and others. So as we kind of look for fit gap in terms of our existing application portfolios, where can we leverage true cloud, where we can't leverage true cloud kind of from a traditional data center hosting private cloud perspective. The goal is not to rebuild. The goal is to leverage one of the existing ones. So that's kind of what I was saying there.
So Adam, it sounds to me like your job is done. Red Hat really doesn't have a lot of work to do. Everyone is far advanced. Give me a sense. What do you, when you're listening to this, what are some of the things that come to mind, and from what are you seeing from your federal clients?
Yeah. So I think, first of all, it's really encouraging, right? Because I think everybody gets that step one is really that consolidation piece. We've got to get all of our stuff into the same place. And once we get all of our stuff into the same place, we've got to make all of our things look alike, right? And so you do the consolidation, and then you start down the standardization path. And once you have some really good standards in your data center, that's when you can really begin to automate. And I would just caution, until you have that automation part of the equation really figured out, be careful about putting too many things in the cloud, right? Because if you have, I always consider people the most expensive part of your data center. If you have the most important part of your data center managing manually something in the cloud that you're paying for by the minute or by the hour, those bills tend to rack up really quickly. But if you've got your automation part solved, then you can automate how you get into that cloud, how you move out of that cloud, how you transition into another cloud. So it sounds like you guys are all on different sort of parts of that path, but you've got the path kind of figured out.
When you talk about automation, are you talking about like standing up, spinning up new servers and taking them down, or what do you mean by automation?
Well, so I do think that often when we talk about cloud and infrastructure, we get really focused on like the per minute or per hour cost of a virtual machine. But the real thing that we need to focus on is this total cost of all of IT infrastructure, right? So it's the servers, it's the applications, it's the user experience, the networking elements, and all of those things need to be automated in such a way that we can move from our existing data center into our cloud data center and really set some very level expectations for our customers of what they're going to receive, and then enable them to have that sort of burst capability, right? The ability to scale up and scale down, again, in a very automated fashion with the metrics and monitoring, and then, of course, with the chargeback, right? Or show back at the very minimum.
Let me go back to the panel for a second. I'll just throw it out there. When you hear Adam talk about automation, is that being worked into that cloud strategy? I'll just open up, Joe.
Sure, absolutely. And I think Adam brings up a lot of good points that so often you look at just the unit cost of storage or compute in the cloud, and that's only tells part of the story. The other is how do you get to the cloud, the whole networking. How do you secure and ensure that your information and your processing is secure in the cloud? In Justice, we're piloting cloud access points based upon DISA's research in this area, and making sure that we've got a robust way to get to our solutions and services in the cloud. But there's a whole lot of other services that have to be built on top of that to ensure that your services are going to be adequate to support your mission and that they're going to be secure.
Yeah, and I would like to tag on to that. Network performance is key. So, as you move to the cloud, the pipes that you build to the cloud, whether you have direct connect to the cloud providers or how your virtual private networks will peer with those other cloud instances is very key. The other cost that can't be discounted is licensing, right? So we all have these on-prem enterprise license agreements that if we're moving to the cloud, we also have to price that out in the cloud as well. A lot of those vendors have their own cloud instance. And so when you want to move those tools into a public cloud arena, there's a lot of discussion there too. So there's a lot of cost around at the application level, not just at the infrastructure level.
Adam's probably bursting at the seams because you're licensing cloud. But we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we can jump on the topic. You're listening to the panel discussion, Raising the Bar on Government IT Using Hybrid Cloud, sponsored by Red Hat on federalnewsradio.com and 1500 AM.